great programming for me is this idea that you're taking the audience on a journey or an adventure. You're giving them something that perhaps they already know or they already like, but then also going a little bit further afield, or maybe a piece that people aren't that familiar with, or an experience, a musical experience that just gets them excited about the possibilities for things that they may not know quite yet. So for me, good programming is a balance between love of pieces that people already know and love, and love of works that inform those works, or amplify those works, or add to the adventure or the sense of just not knowing completely what to expect. I think you should always go into a concert experience with some sense of wonder and discovery. So for me, in putting together a great concert or a great season, that's really my guiding philosophy.
For me, it is super important to have both known and unknown repertoire on the program. Just because I think the listening experience is very different. If you listen to a piece that you know and you can anticipate what is going to happen versus a piece where you have no idea what you're getting into. So it's much more adventurous, but adventure can be a tricky thing in music because some people don't really like adventure that much in music. And so I try to be very careful about what kind of music I pick when I pick living composers. And there's a huge difference between American contemporary music and European contemporary music. And I find that American contemporary music is much more accessible, much more in the romantic vein, if you want, and much more speaking the language that can be immediately understood. And so it's really important that it doesn't take several listenings to understand a piece, but that you can appreciate it right away. So, so that is kind of when you put a program together, really important for me. Something that you definitely know, something that you definitely not know, and maybe something in the middle, where it's like a 50-50% chance that you know, but it needs to be 100% chance that you will like it.
Well, for me, part of balancing contemporary music with classical music is to find pieces that say something about each other. In other words, if you're going to put a Brahms symphony on the program, why not find a contrasting work or something that works with the same forces but says something in a very different way? And I think in any other art form, we're very familiar with and used to hearing something new. We're game for the adventure. So to my mind, it's this striking a balance between the things that we already know and love and finding works by composers that are really compelling and have something to say to a modern audience, whether it's incorporating elements of style from popular culture or popular music, or it's a unique sound color or a unique idea. I like to put those elements together, not only in terms of contrasting, but just taking the audience on a journey, on a specific ride. I think we certainly have a responsibility to perform the music of our time. And I think the good news is that composers are very attuned to audiences today. They really care how audiences react to their music and how people receive their music. That's not to say that it should always be pleasing or beautiful. I mean, I think there's some really serious and incredible pieces that investigate worlds of sorrow or pain or war or negativity. And I think great art does that. It makes us search. It makes us think beyond ourselves and to think what this art has to say about us and about our lives. So the good news, as I said, is that there are plenty of modern composers, including Jennifer Higdon and Gian Corigliano and Arvo Pärt and Richard Danielpour. There's really composers that care a lot, Christopher Theophanidis. They really care a lot about how their music is received by their audience and how it's understood. So it's important to me to find those composers and find those pieces that really resonate with a modern audience and put them right alongside the pieces by Brahms and Beethoven and Tchaikovsky and Mozart that we already know and already love.
I think that contemporary music is absolutely vital for many reasons. One, it's a way for an orchestra to keep its interest and its curiosity fresh, to know what's happening and what composers have to say now in order to also promote not just its own sound but the sound of the future. It's important to keep relationships to living composers and perform contemporary music as often as possible, especially in conjunction with the standard repertoire of the classical style between Haydn all the way to the 20th century. I think it's important in terms of the language of music, which develops, but which becomes fresh and gives you new vocabulary to actually interpret the old masters. And so in many ways, it's a gateway for us to understanding what we have to deal with currently, because composers think very, very closely about what are the things that our society needs and what we need as human beings to live now and to live with this mindset that we and our lives are relevant, and being able to put that into a program that celebrates established and traditional composers is really important for the future of an institution. And the other thing is that it will also help to promote the profile of the symphony, because each orchestra in each city, of course, each state has its own unique identity. Every orchestra has to perform the standard repertoire. We'll have to do that well nowadays. That's a requirement. And contemporary music is in fact an opportunity for an orchestra to look forward to, have something that will become part of its own identity and that the community will embrace as its very unique voice.
For me, a modern orchestra is many things, one of which is a group of musicians that carry a grand tradition. That is to say, we love and we appreciate the great music that's been written in the past, and we feel a responsibility to perform it. And audiences love to hear that great music. It's like going to a museum and seeing a great painting or a great sculpture. It's going to be there, and it needs to be there for years to come so that people can enjoy it and learn and absorb from it. But I also think that a modern orchestra needs to be fluid, it needs to be dynamic, and it needs to be responsive to audiences and current trends. So not just in contemporary music in a classical stream, but I also think in terms of popular programming. I think you need to be on the front edge of what's happening in the streams of music and in art and in appreciation. So I'm always looking for an interesting film or a series, or try to theme things together to find great music and great musical experiences to put into both the symphonic and the pops concerts. And then of course I think that an orchestra needs to be responsive to all ages, which is to say you need to come up with really creative and interesting children's programming as much as you do for the adults. It's important that the entire community has an access point, some way into the orchestra, whether it's a family concert or a young person's concert on a school day, or a symphonic concert on a Saturday night or a Tuesday evening, or a great pops concert where you're interfacing with a Broadway star or playing music from popular movies from recent history.